The silverware clinked sharply as my mother's voice cut through the dinner table tension. Rachel, we've decided it's best if your engagement is celebrated together with your sister's baby shower. It'll save money, time, and everyone can just attend one party. I froze, my fork hovering above my plate. Excuse me? Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. My younger sister, Hannah, leaned back in her chair, stroking her swollen belly like she was queen of the evening. Honestly, it's perfect. People will come for me and the baby, but at least your little moment won't get completely overlooked. Laughter erupted from the table. My aunts, cousins, even my father chuckling as if Hannah had cracked the joke of the century. I swallowed the lump in my throat. So you're telling me my engagement celebration is now just an add-on? My dad shook his head slowly, his tone patronizing. Don't be dramatic, Rachel. It's all family. Besides, you've always been independent, capable. Your sister needs the spotlight right now, not you. The air in my chest thickened, like I couldn't breathe. Hannah's smirk only widened. And since you've got that big corporate job, Rachel, it only makes sense you cover the expenses. Think of it as your gift to me. That was it. The humiliation, the entitlement, the way my own parents applauded her arrogance while I sat. They're treated like an afterthought. My fingers tightened around the glass stem until I thought it might shatter. Fine, I said finally, my voice even. If that's what you all want. But inside, my mind was already spinning. Quiet, sharp, merciless. Later that night, in the safety of our apartment, my my husband, pulled me close. We had married quietly at the courthouse 2 weeks earlier, something my parents didn't deserve to know yet. Rachel, talk to me, Ethan murmured, searching my face. They want me to pay for both my engagement and Hannah's baby shower. They want to bury me in her shadow again. And they think I'll just smile and obey. His jaw tightened. They've walked over you long enough. I looked him dead in the eyes. Then let's give them what they asked for. I'll pay. I'll nod. But the night before their big event, Ethan, we'll host our own dinner. Small, private, elegant. And every guest they expect at their party will already be at ours. Ethan's lips curved into a slow, dangerous smile. Now that sounds like the Rachel I married, and in that moment my revenge began to breathe. The next morning I woke to dozens of text messages from my mother, all centered on one thing: Hannah's shower. Mom. Rachel, don't forget the florist. Mom. And confirm the catering. Something elegant, not too pricey. Mom. Hannah wants white roses. Don't disappoint her. Every message was an order, not a request. Not once did she mention my engagement. I sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through the demands, my coffee growing cold. Ethan leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching me. They don't even see you anymore, he muttered. Just a wallet. I lifted my eyes, bitterness stinging my throat. Exactly. And that's why they won't see what's coming until it's too late. That afternoon, I began planning. I called the caterer my family had insisted on, but instead of booking them for the shower, I secured them for my dinner. A private dining room at the most exclusive restaurant in town. Hidden, luxurious, intimate. When the manager asked for the date, I smiled. The evening before March 12th. The exact night before Hannah's shower. By the end of the day, the reservations were locked. Invitations were discreetly sent, not to everyone, but to the people who mattered most. Family, friends, relatives, colleagues my parents desperately wanted to impress. I worded it carefully. Rachel and Ethan invite you to an intimate celebration. Dinner to share their union and future. This is private. by invitation only. The replies rolled in almost instantly. Yes, yes, absolutely. Wouldn't miss it. Meanwhile, Hannah continued posting online about her upcoming shower, bragging about her registry, acting as if she were royalty. She had no clue that the guest list she thought would clap for her would be dining with me the night before. 3 days before the events, my mother called. Her voice was sharp, impatient. "Rachel, did you book the band yet? Your sister wants live music. We need everything perfect." I pressed the phone to my ear, keeping my tone calm. "Don't worry, Mom. Everything is under control." "Good," she snapped. "Don't let Hannah down. This is the most important moment of her life. My life didn't even register." I could have laughed at the cruelty if it didn't sting so deeply. When I hung up, Ethan slid a folder across the table toward me. Inside was a seating chart for our private dinner. "Every important guest confirmed. I checked twice," he said, his voice low with satisfaction. I scanned the names, family friends, old neighbors, even a few of Hannah's closest girlfriends who apparently preferred a 5-course meal and a champagne toast over a baby shower buffet. My chest warmed with a mix of relief and vengeance. "They'll all be there," I whispered. "They'll choose us." The night arrived. I stood in front of the mirror in our suite at the restaurant, smoothing down the emerald silk dress Ethan had surprised me with. It clung to my figure, elegant without being revealing, the kind of dress that screamed confidence. Without saying a word, "You look unstoppable," Ethan said, fastening the diamond bracelet around my wrist. I met his gaze in the mirror. Tonight isn't about stopping anyone. It's about showing them I was never the afterthought they made me out to be. When we entered the dining hall, the air smelled of roasted duck, truffle butter, and roses. Candlelight flickered across white tablecloths. And one by one, the guests arrived. Smiles, embraces, congratulations. Every person who walked in made my pulse race with satisfaction. They weren't at Hannah's. They weren't with my parents. They were with me. Halfway through dinner, I stood to give a toast. The room fell silent, every eye on me. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I began, my voice steady. "Some of you may not know this, but Ethan and I married 2 weeks ago. Quietly, privately. Because sometimes love doesn't need a stage. It needs loyalty, trust, and faith." Gasps echoed around the room. Glasses lifted. Applause erupted. Ethan squeezed my hand under the table, his eyes gleaming with pride. And in that moment, I knew. Tomorrow, when Hannah walked into her shower expecting adoration, she'd find empty seats. When my parents looked around for their friends, they'd see none. They'd finally understand the truth. I didn't need their permission. I didn't need their approval. And I didn't need to stand in my sister's shadow any longer. The quiet revenge was already in motion. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the curtains of our apartment, but I hardly noticed. My phone was already buzzing non-stop. Aunt Carol. "Rachel, last night was magical. Thank you for inviting us." Family friend? Marianne. "Honestly, best dinner we've ever been to. You and Ethan are perfect together." Neighbor Mrs. Dalton. "I won't be able to make Hannah's shower today, but I'll drop off a gift later." I scrolled through message after message, my lips curving into a slow smile. They'd chosen, just as I knew they would. Ethan brewed, coffee sliding a mug in front of me. "They're waking up to it right now," he said. His voice carried that sharp edge of satisfaction. I pictured my parents arriving at the venue for Hannah's shower, expecting a crowd, expecting adoration, only to find half the chairs empty, tables untouched, the air thick with embarrassment. Around noon, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Rachel." Her voice cracked with fury, every syllable trembling. "What did you do?" I sipped my coffee slowly. "What do you mean?" You know exactly what I mean. Last night, your dinner. You stole our guests. Do you realize what you've done to your sister's shower? People are canceling left and right. I set the mug down, letting a beat of silence drag across the line. I didn't steal anyone. I invited them. They chose. On the other end, her breath hitched, like she'd been slapped. My father's voice thundered in the background. Ungrateful, selfish. Finally, my mother hissed, "You've humiliated us." "No," I said evenly. "You humiliated me when you tried to turn my engagement into a footnote at Hannah's baby shower. You used me as a wallet, a prop. Last night? That was me taking back my voice." Her silence was deafening. Meanwhile, at the shower, Hannah's meltdown was already unfolding. "Where is everyone?" she snapped, pacing the decorated hall. Pink and white balloons bobbed overhead, untouched platters of sandwiches and cupcakes lined the tables. The guests who had shown up were mostly stragglers, distant cousins, one or two old neighbors. Her closest girlfriends? Absent. The respected family friends my parents had bragged about? Absent. Even her husband's relatives had sent apologetic texts, claiming prior commitments. Hannah clutched her phone, scrolling furiously. "They all went to Rachel's dinner? Are you kidding me?" Her husband tried to calm her down, but she shoved his hand away. Tears of rage streamed down her face. "This was supposed to be my day." My parents hovered awkwardly near the entrance, their proud smiles long gone. My father muttered curses under his breath. My mother's cheeks flushed crimson. They couldn't spin this. They couldn't save face. The truth was bare. Their golden child wasn't enough to hold the crowd. Back at our place, Ethan leaned over the counter, reading the texts coming in. "Your cousin Megan said your toast was the most powerful thing she's ever heard. She said, 'You looked like you owned the room.'" I exhaled slowly. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Not the afterthought. Not the family's scapegoat. Just me. But then, my phone buzzed again. A different number. "Hannah." "Rachel," she seethed. The moment I picked up, "You ruined everything. You're pathetic. You couldn't stand me being the center of attention, could you?" I stayed quiet, letting her words spill like poison. My baby shower was supposed to be the biggest day of my life, and you sabotaged. Everyone will remember how selfish you are." Finally, I spoke, calm and cutting. "Hannah, people didn't skip your shower because of me. They skipped because they were tired of your entitlement. You've been handed the spotlight for years. Last night proved that when people have a choice, they'd rather be somewhere genuine, somewhere real, not a stage built on demands and arrogance." Her breath came heavy, ragged. "You'll regret this." Then the line went dead. Ethan's hand slid into mine. "She doesn't get it, does she?" "She never will," I whispered. Later that evening, photos from our dinner began circulating online. Guests posted pictures of me and Ethan, radiant, under candlelight, captions filled with congratulations and love. Meanwhile, pictures from Hannah's shower told a different story. Empty chairs, half-eaten food, forced smiles. The comparison was brutal and impossible to ignore. By sunset, my mother called again. This time, her tone was not anger. It was brittle, small. "Rachel, we didn't realize." I almost laughed. "Didn't realize what?" "That maybe we pushed you aside too much. That maybe we took advantage." Her words weren't an apology, but they were close enough to sting. For once, my mother sounded uncertain, stripped of her authority. "Mom," I said softly, "you didn't just push me aside. You erased me. Last night wasn't revenge. It was a reminder. I don't need to beg for my place in this family anymore. I've built my own." Ethan squeezed my hand tighter. When I hung up, I felt lighter than I had in years. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't screaming or fighting, It's letting silence and empty chairs speak louder than you ever could. The fallout from that weekend didn't fade quickly. In fact, it clung to my family like a stain they couldn't scrub out. By Monday morning, everyone in town was still buzzing. Did you hear about Rachel's private dinner? Hannah's shower was practically empty. The Morgans aren't as untouchable as they thought. For once, the whispers weren't about me being the quiet, overlooked daughter. They were about how I'd finally stepped out of the shadows and owned the spotlight. At work, colleagues congratulated me with genuine warmth. One even said, "Rachel, that toast? It gave me chills. You've got something powerful in you." I carried that with me, the weight of it both healing and electrifying. But my parents didn't stay quiet. That week, they showed up at my apartment uninvited. Ethan opened the door to find my father standing stiff, my mother clutching her purse like a shield. Their faces were pale, strained, like they'd aged 10 years in a matter of days. "Rachel," my mother began, her voice trembling. "We came to talk." I crossed my arms. "About what? How I embarrassed you? Or how you embarrassed me for years?" My father shifted uncomfortably, his voice low. "We underestimated you. We thought merging the events would make sense. We didn't realize how much it meant to you." "No," I corrected him coldly. "You didn't care. You've always cared more about appearances than about me. You saw me as a convenience, a bank account, a second act to Hannah's play. But I'm done being cast in that role." My mother's eyes glistened. "Rachel, please, we don't want this distance." Ethan stepped closer, his presence steady. "You created this distance. Rachel's just choosing not to carry the weight anymore." Silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. Finally, my father muttered, "We'll go." And just like that, the door closed on them. The first time in my life I felt it was on my terms. As for Hannah, her rage became public. She posted a long, bitter rant online, accusing me of being jealous, manipulative, even cruel. But instead of sympathy, the comments turned against her. "Rachel's dinner looked beautiful. Maybe if you weren't so entitled. Your sister deserves her own celebration too. This isn't jealousy. It's boundaries." For once, people saw through the performance. They saw Hannah for what she was, and they saw me for who I had become. Weeks later, Ethan and I hosted another dinner, this time openly, proudly. Friends filled our home with laughter, clinking glasses, and genuine joy. No comparisons, no guilt, no manipulation. Just us. As I stood at the table looking at Ethan, at the people who chose to be there, something inside me shifted. I wasn't the forgotten daughter anymore. I wasn't the family scapegoat. I was Rachel Morgan, wife, partner, woman who learned the hardest way possible that family can break you, but it's up to you to decide if they keep that power. That night, Ethan pulled me aside, pressing his forehead to mine. "You changed everything," he whispered. "No," I said softly, smiling for the first time without bitterness. "I just finally stopped letting them change me." And with that, I let the weight of years fall away, because sometimes the loudest revenge isn't shouting or slamming doors. It's walking away, standing tall, and watching them realize the silence you leave behind is the one thing they can't control.